Hey guys, we're going to be looking at something a little bit interesting today because this is technically the NASCAR fan dummy test. So if you want to test whether or not your friend is a dummy, or your mom is a dummy, or your dad is a dummy, or your dog is a dummy, then you can show them this video and you'll see what happens. Because I just want to see what people think. I want to see how people understand this incident to be. Because this surprised me when it happened, and it was really, really exciting when it happened. I mean, I kind of almost nearly jumped out of my seat when this happened, because it was wild. But people had a problem with it, and it was mostly people having a problem with Kyle Larson. And I was really surprised by that. I was actually like, what the fuck? How are you mad at Kyle Larson for doing this? Don't get me wrong, I am a fan of Kyle Larson. I'm not so much a fan of Jimmie Johnson, but when it comes to racing incidents, I try to put all that shit aside and look at it like a smart person, like a logical individual, unbiased. So I'm going into this absolutely unbiased. I'm going to play it first before I say anything, make sure that I put this back into normal speed, all that great stuff. We're going to watch this with a little bit of audio. I'm going to let you hear what happened, how they commentated it, all that great stuff. So let's watch.
You're not aggressive, you're going to go to the back. Kevin Harvick had to take that spot. It was aggressive, but he had to do it. The same way Jimmie Johnson had to block Kyle Larson right there. If he doesn't block him, Kyle's going by. You've got to be aggressive. Kyle's not happy.
Kyle's not happy at all. He's running into the back of the 48 as they enter the turn, and way up the racetrack goes Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, Kyle was not happy with Jimmie Johnson with that block. Moved Jimmie Johnson out of the way. Jimmie Johnson lost 3 spots over it, and more coming with Daniel Suarez.
Alright, so I was completely quiet. I allowed this to play. Now I'm gonna go ahead, put this in slow motion, and tell you what I think, okay? I'm trying really hard to give this the benefit of the doubt. I really am. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it, just solely because racing is racing. But let's go ahead and look at this. So let me just go ahead and mute that. That's gonna sound stupid. Kyle Larson makes a move here. Johnson comes down to block the run, blocks it again, and then again. Now, this is where I kind of have an issue, because it looks like Kyle Larson gets a pretty good run. Like, he's almost to the inside, and Johnson blocks again, and then Larson comes back up, and he's obviously mad, hits him twice, pushes him into the corner faster than he wants to go. He has a little bit of damage on the nose, but not nearly a lot. And then Jimmie Johnson flips him off there, and then he puts his hand back in his car, because I guess he was so angry that he wasn't worried about maybe getting out of the groove and wrecking, so he just had to make sure to flip him off real quick. I was just so surprised when I saw what I saw. Jimmie flipping him off was kind of retarded. Like, I didn't expect it at all for him to flip off Kyle Larson. And when I saw somebody say, hey, Jimmie Johnson flipped him off after doing that, I was like, why would you flip him off? Because he didn't do anything wrong. I look at this situation as a racing situation. Like, Larson got a good run, and this first move right here is just defending your position. Larson had no run on him at that point, really. He was nowhere near close to him. He's just defending his line. But this is the critical mistake that Johnson makes. And this is why Larson gets even closer to him, because watch how Johnson comes down the track. He comes down and then stops turning, right? He's trying to keep it straight, like he's going to keep the speed from going just completely straight, full-on throttle, to turning down. So instead of just keeping on turning, he's going to turn down and then stop and put it right back center again, so he can keep his speed up. But the problem is he does it too fast. He does it too many times, because he has to. He has to keep trying to block him. It takes away his momentum. It basically pushes Johnson forward because of how weird this package is. So the first move there, he pulls down, and then he goes straight again. So you'll see it. Pulls down, goes straight again, turns back again, though. So he's basically wobbling down the backstretch. And you know everybody seeing this shit is like, oh, damn. Oh, fuck. They smelled blood in the water, I'm sure. like Suarez was having a front row seat, like he could see everything. But when he's basically wobbling down the track, he does it a couple of times. Now, if you look at this one though, the very last one, that one almost works. Like, he could have done that like 2 times and he wouldn't have had any problem with Larson. He would have just been able to stay in front of him. But watch, okay, the first move, he stops turning, and then he starts turning again. This block right here, this one is kind of when it starts getting stupid. First one's fine. Second one, not so fine. Third one right here, not so fine. But look at what he did different between the second and the third block here. So second block, and then he waits for a long time until he blocks again. And you see how he got much more of, like, his car in front of Larson there. Since he waited instead of just wobbling down the backstretch, because you can see how much time he loses. You can see how much speed he loses. Because first one, he lost a bunch there. Second one, he had to block again. And then he waited. Look at how long he waited before he blocked again. It almost worked out for him, but if you're wobbling that whole time, he lost so much speed at that point that it made no difference, even when he waited an extra bit of time on the third block. So now Larson has a huge run because, I mean, he probably lost like 4 or 5 miles an hour doing that. Larson didn't really lose that much because he didn't wobble down the backstretch. He kind of just kept it like, he kept turning to the bottom. He didn't necessarily stop turning at any point. It's better to do it in one motion than 3 different motions. And Johnson's never really been good at, like, the side drafting and, like, basically the blocking aspect of this car. People have had issues with him blocking before, like Talladega a couple of times and Daytona a couple of times. Like, people have been really mad about how he blocks. He doesn't really do it right. And it's kind of surprising because it obviously does not work here. We saw other people doing it during the race where it worked out for them, but for Johnson it didn't. Because watch Larson, he still has a big run, and now this is where it gets kind of scary. Because, I mean, Larson is there. Like, he is down inside of Johnson there. And look at the position of the cars here. He's down on the white line at this point. And now he's even further down. Johnson hasn't moved yet. Johnson was pretty much like about... That's about a quarter, like a little bit more than like a quarter of a car down there. Now watch what he does here. He starts closing this door while Larson is inside. He closes that door pretty much all the way. And Larson was on the inside of him there. Like, if we look at this, he is fucking there, man. And he shuts it. So that's the block in specific that I, myself personally, would have been furious about. Furious. I'd have wrecked him. I wouldn't have gotten out of the gas. And Larson got out of the gas. Because, I mean, he was to the inside of him. And you can see how he gets out of the gas because he's all the way behind him now. He let off and said, oh shit, well, we're going to wreck if I don't get the fuck out of the gas here. And then instead of, you know, just letting him go, he was like, you know what? You blocked me like an asshole, so I'm gonna hit you. And he hit him 2 times. I mean, that wreck could have been really bad if Johnson, you know, if he would have gotten turned there. That would have been scary. Like, right about here, if Larson wouldn't have got out of that gas, I mean, Johnson would have been heading down this backstretch. They're about like 190, probably 194, 195 at this point. If he would have gotten turned around sideways here, he would have hit that inside wall really hard, and he would have been thrown back out into that racetrack, and somebody would have hit Jimmie Johnson. Like, pretty much almost full speed. This wreck could have been horrendous. But Larson chose against it. He said, nope, I'm not really going to wreck him. I'm just going to beat him up here. He beats him up twice, pushes him in the corner faster than he wants to go. And then Johnson, famous Jimmie Johnson kind of shit, he does something wrong and he knows he did something wrong, but instead of taking the responsibility for it, he'll just kind of like flip you off. And he did. He flipped off Kyle Larson for something that really wasn't flip-off worthy, because he kind of spared your race and maybe even your life there, because that would have been a big, big, big wreck. Like a big wreck for Jimmie Johnson. He's lucky that Kyle didn't turn him. And Jimmie's day kind of like got better after this. Even though he ends up losing like 8 spots. He was in 10th when this happened. He went all the way back to 19th after this. So, you know, he lost 9, almost 10 spots because of that. And in racing, when you block like that, this is your responsibility. If you block like that and the person behind you that you're blocking just decides, what the fuck are you doing? You better stop. And he turns you or he moves you out of the way, that is your responsibility. And it'll always be that way. But the problem is NASCAR fans blame this on the guy who was getting blocked like an asshole. They blamed it on Larson. Why was he blamed for that? Explain to me logically why Kyle Larson was blamed for that incident there. Because it could have been a lot worse. Jimmie could have turned himself over Kyle Larson, and it wouldn't have been Kyle's fault. You know, it's probably the reason why Larson was blamed is because the bias of NASCAR fans right now for Kyle Larson it's pretty high. Like, Kyle Larson fans are kind of crazy, and his haters are really crazy. Like, it's pretty whack how this is going down right now. People were so mad that he decided to defend himself in this situation. They were saying, wow, what an asshole, you know, he's stupid. Why would he even do that? He almost wrecked Jimmie. Like, that was bullshit. And I'm talking about NASCAR, can't even talk. NASCAR Facebook commenters. I'm gonna say commentators, and I had to stop myself again. Facebook NASCAR commenters. I can't find the post anymore, which makes me really sad because I wanted to show it because I thought it was funny as shit. Because I just don't understand. But then we go to this next incident here, and we start to see a pattern of hypocritical NASCAR fans. Imagine that. So we're going to look at this one here. Pretty much the same instance. Ty Dillon runs Kyle Larson all the way down to the inside wall. Kyle stopped turning down to the bottom at one point in time. You'll see it right about here because they do make contact. Kyle stops turning right about there, and then Ty almost turns himself. But Ty just happened to move down into him, and that got Larson sideways. And then he hit that speedy drive, which definitely didn't help. When I first saw this wreck, I thought Ty blocked him into the speedy dry, and Larson lost it because of the speedy dry. No, it's because they touched. Larson stopped turning down to the bottom. He was like, I'm here. I'm already there. Fuck you. I'm going to stay in the gas. And Ty kept coming down. Ty could have turned himself into the inside wall and taken Larson with him and a lot of other people further back in the pack whenever Ty maybe or maybe not got turned up the racetrack. And that would have been a big wreck too. But it ends up wrecking Larson, the victim in this situation once again. And everybody blamed it on this guy right here, Ty Dillon, because it absolutely was his fault. Absolutely. But what is the difference between what Ty Dillon did here and what Jimmie Johnson did there earlier in the race? Because this was at the end of the race. I mean, we are under 10 laps to go at this point. And he blocks Kyle. I think we had like 6 laps to go. You know, this was right after a restart. Casey Kane was in the lead. He was about to, maybe win the race, depending on how everything went down. And Ty Dillon blocked Larson all the way to the inside wall. Almost turns himself, but instead of turning himself, it turned Larson. What was the difference between Johnson and Larson? And, Ty Dillon and Kyle Larson. What were the differences between the two? If you can make me a legitimate argument as to why Ty Dillon's was worse than Jimmie Johnson's, I might give you the benefit of the doubt if you can do it, because you may be able to do it. There's a way that you can do it. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but there's a way you can do it. If you're smart enough, you'll figure it out. But this is the same exact thing to me. These are the same exact instances. Johnson was a prick for blocking, the way that he blocked basically there at the end. Like the third block, the final block, was the worst block. It could have gotten him turned around. Who knows if him going into the grass and hitting that wall would have turned him over? Who fucking knows? I have no idea. But that wreck could have been really, really bad on Johnson's end. And this wreck right here, it not only took out Larson, it basically ruined Blaney's chances of doing anything, like getting a good finish. It tore his car up. The front end was basically gone, and it got him further back in the pack because of it. He lost a position to Suarez. And he's about right in that area, Ryan Blaney, that, you know, the next wreck, the next restart would cause a huge pileup. And he was involved in that. And that was all because Ty Dillon just decided, like, fuck it. I'm going to block this guy all the way to the inside wall, and you're going to have to deal with it. It was just so surprising that people are so stupid, that they're so hypocritical, because they blamed Kyle Larson for this incident, but Jimmie Johnson was okay. He did nothing wrong, but Ty Dillon, ho, 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 I'll put you on the fucking cross, bud. I'll take you down. And this is the dummy test. This is the hypocrite test. If you want to see, if your friend is stupid, if they're hypocritical, show them this video. Show them that they're biased and dumb, because there's basically no difference between these two blocks and these two incidents. One caused a wreck, the other one didn't. And I guess that's what made people feel a little bit better about the Johnson block. But this one could have caused a wreck right here, because he was inside of him and Johnson came down and Larson got out of the gas. And then instead of, you know, basically turning him into the grass, he decided to hit him into the corner instead, which Jimmie Johnson is a lucky man that that's all he got. And he only lost 9 positions. And he recovered at the end of the race and still got a good finish because of it. Because Kyle Larson kind of respects him enough to where I won't completely kill his race, but I'll kill it for a little bit. Because you deserve it. Which he did. He did deserve what he got there. But why was Jimmie Johnson not fucking called on his bullshit that he did there? But Kyle Larson was called on that, said, oh, that's Kyle Larson's fault. But Ty Dillon was told, oh yeah, you're the one at fault. But Jimmie Johnson wasn't in his case. It's the dumbest shit. You guys are so biased that it's retarded. It's so wild. It's so wild. It makes me so mad whenever I think about it. Because there's no fucking difference here. No difference. But if you can come up with a good argument and sway me somehow, then maybe I'll let you win. But at this moment, I'm right, unless you can prove me wrong. Because this was a situation where I'm looking at it unbiased as possible. I'm looking at what caused what. And they were both pretty bad. Just one didn't end up in a wreck.